Alright, what's going on, everyone? We are going to check out Mafia, the old country, today on the 9070 XT at 4K resolution. Got it paired with a 9700X CPU, and let's just get right into it. Everything is basically bottomed out. Everything has been sunken down to the lowest level it could possibly be. And we are at 51 FPS. Now down here in this little grape area, it does dip down quite a bit. This is kind of an edge case right here. It does run pretty well in this area. It does have some swings of about 20 FPS though. So let's just keep on running around in this area to see what we can expect. So the best thing to probably do is to just go ahead and introduce some upscaling. We're going to need it. I've run through this a few times just to make sure that my testing was solid. But our PCL is suffering a little bit. We're at a 74 milliseconds or so, which is a little bit looser than what I would want on a game like this. It doesn't typically have a huge impact, but there's just something about that higher PCL that bothers me a little bit. So the way to get that up is, of course, increase your frame rate. So the easiest way to do that is to just upscale. So we are on FSR 4. It has been implemented through the control panel on the AMD Adrenalin software. So we are running AMD's latest and greatest. So if I just going up to quality, we're going to see a pretty big improvement here. So let's do that. 94 FPS, 93 FPS. So that gives us plenty of headroom. Now right here you can kind of see our view distance is pretty bad. We've got also some pop in because textures are quite low, and they're not really, the settings are pretty low, but pretty bottomed out still. So let's just go ahead and see if we can do something about that. Let's come into here and let's go into our settings and go into graphics and come on down here. So we're going to leave it on quality. Everything looks good there. But what we're going to do is just come into here and apply what is basically the medium preset. I'm going to have to kick some settings around because I'm wanting to get off of TSR for the moment and then get back over to AMD. All right, so we're on quality upscaling, and this is kind of the medium setting. So what that does is it kicks our reflections over to medium. It gives us our view distance, great improvement there, to far. We can go to epic even. Textures are high, foliage medium, then everything else as you see here on the screen. So this is kind of the medium setting. I'm going to need to do a restart, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back in it now after a clean restart. We're still at about 84, 85 FPS. Now it does run better over here than in the grape area down here at the bottom of this staircase. But we're still about 75. It's probably going to go down into the 50s here, would be my guess. Let's see if it holds on to everything. Oh, it comes down. Okay, it stays in the 70s. That's good. Yeah, for the most part, though, it's going to dip down in this area, and that just kind of like determines what kind of what you're into. I'm the type of person that I like to have, if I can have 90% of the game run well with like 10% of it and maybe some rough patches, I'll select that option any day rather than giving up, the nicer looking fidelity on the remainder of the 90% just to have the 10% run perfectly. I can put up with it. But right here, you're at 82 FPS. And your PCL has come down considerably. It's at 53 milliseconds right now. So, as far as the VRAM goes, we're okay. There's nothing wrong with this at all. We're allocating 10.4 using just under 8. So, all that stuff looks just fine. All right, so we're at 85 FPS here. So let's just kick it on over to what would be the high setting. This game does have some pretty funky settings here with it. So let me go back to high. Kick it back over to FSR Quality. All right, so everything looks good here. So this is what it does. Brings your shadows up, it looks like, and does some other things here. Post-processing is still bottomed out, and your global illumination is still bottomed out, but everything else has gotten an adjustment. So let's see how this runs. This is, again, something I need to do a restart for, so I'll do that and be right back. Alright, so here we are again on our high settings, and right here we're at 77 FPS, looks pretty good here, into the low 80s even. And again, still on that quality upscaling. FSR 4, again, is fantastic. The technology has really caught up well. It looks great, and I can't recommend it enough. If you want to use FSR Quality, that's fine. You can maintain that 60 most of the time with these settings. Of course, we're not completely maxed out. We're going to go up to an epic setting here soon. But over here, you know, you do get a little bit of some dips here and there, but it does run really smoothly, and our frame time graph looks excellent, and the 1% lows look good too as well. I am going in and out of different menus, so the 1% lows, you know, they're not entirely accurate, so just keep that in mind. As I play, they become more and more accurate. You know, sometimes the menus can screw that number up a little bit. But anyway, yeah, our PCL is still around 53 milliseconds. We're at 73 FPS here. But yeah, everything looks really good. Our VRAM allocation is right just under 11, and our use went up a little bit, about half a gig. So we're about, you know, a little above 8.3 to 8.5, give or take. But yeah, 70 FPS on a game like this is more than acceptable. This is not a fast-paced title at all. Our pop-in has been reduced considerably. Textures look really good. Everything's loading in just fine. You're not seeing that like checkerboarding where textures are popping in and out. And that's largely due to the restart. Gave it a chance to you know, rebuild those textures. As I say that, it pops in. Every time I say something, it does the opposite. So that's just what I've learned doing a couple hundred of these tests. Is if I say something, it's going to do it. All right, so yeah, anyway, let's jump into it. Go into settings and just see what we can do as far as getting this all the way up. We're going to go into what is effectively just the epic settings, so we're just going to go all the way up with everything here and crank it all the way to the top. So this is all epic right here. Let's go ahead and shut that motion blur off. No frame generation. We're still on quality FSR. Again, this is FSR 4, so I'm going to do a restart. This game loves to make you restart, but that's what you got to do. And we will see you in just a second. All right, so we are back in it now, and as you can see, we have gotten everything topped out to epic. And right on this area that is a little bit easier to run with epic settings and quality FSR 4, we are in the 50s, high 40s even. So I want to run down here to this area under the tree, just to see if it holds up okay. So we're in the low 40s now. Yeah, this area is typically a little bit harder to run down here. So yeah, I'm just going to run around here, see what we can get. So 47, 43. So yeah, we're going to have to do some upscaling if you want to run full-on epic settings. But again, you know, FSR 4 looks so damn good. Really going up to performance now gives you a really, really good image. Really, FSR 4 is just a complete game changer. But yeah, we are at 56, 57 out here on this area that is a little bit easier to run. Now, if I come out here, it will probably peak around 60, mid-60s maybe, just because once you leave town, it does run a little bit better. So just kind of keep that in mind. I am testing in an area that is it's going to give you the worst case scenario, and kind of the best case scenario would be, you know, out here in this open area with less assets to load in and just less NPCs or no NPCs even in cases. Those typically will drop your frame rate a good bit. So what we need to do here is a little bit more upscaling. For the most part, though, I don't want to get into doing frame generation until I'm around 60 FPS anyway. You could go ahead and do it. If that's fine with you, then be my guest. You know, nobody's going to stop you, but it does tend to look really, really good all the way down to performance. So really there's no sense in frame generating if you can get a nice image first with a nice high frame rate. I mean, right here, your PCL is sitting at 73 milliseconds, and you know that's a little high to do some frame generation from. But if you take into consideration the type of game you're playing, it's not that bad. You know, if this is a flicky shooter or competitive title, I would have a different opinion. But for story-based games, really, most people play story games for the graphic fidelity, not necessarily like having, you know, 200 FPS or whatever, because it's not a game that needs it. So, you know, every game is completely different in what, you know, your target settings should look like. I think that is something that often gets overlooked, is they, you know, 60 FPS is just kind of the gold standard. Of course, you want that, but you also have to consider the type of game it is. If it's a highly reactive game, of course, you'll need, you know, sometimes even higher than 60. People like 120, you know, or 100 plus. But if it's a game like this where you're, you know, basically going through a story, with some light combat and driving and whatnot, you know, I think anything around 60 is perfectly acceptable, and a PCL under 80 is fine as well, especially if you're on a controller. So let's just jump and see what it would take to get to that 60, just to kind of like put the imagination to rest and see what we can do here. So I'm going to go up to FSR Performance, and that will give you a small lift, still not a lot. It's not really like a huge jump. So yeah, we're in the 70s now, looking out in this area, 80s even. So yeah, that is a little bit better once you leave this area, the city, but this lets you hang on to close to 60, which it's still not all the way 60, but it is, you know, better than high 30s, that's for sure. But yeah, down here, I mean, you're still in the 50s. So even if you wanted to go with performance, you would probably just want to kick on some frame generation anyway, just because it's there. You've got plenty of VRAM to do it. You're only using 12.3, or you're using 9.7 and you're allocating 12.3. So once we kick on frame generation, it will eat up a little bit of that VRAM, but you've got it on the card, so you might as well use it anyway. So what I'm going to do now is go through some frame generation settings. I'm going to go down to, let's go to FSR Quality. All right, so let's go to Quality, and then actually let's go to Native. I just want to see what it would do completely native, no frame generation or anything. And you're still at 41 FPS here. Again, it will probably tank once we go into that area where they're like jumping on the grapes under the tree, but it doesn't run the best, you know, without some upscaling in general. So yeah, we're here at 30 FPS. So native is quite rough, but you know, the FSR 4 upscaling is really good. I mean, our PCL was on like 125 right then, so it's not a great experience. Anyway, let's jump over into it and go to that quality and come down here and kick on frame gen. So we'll have some frame generation in addition to the quality, and see what that gives us. That brings us up considerably. I mean, really nice, impressive frame rate here now, especially for a game like this. Now I am using the frame view from NVIDIA to report PCL, and once you turn on AMD frame generation, that goes away. I unfortunately cannot find a good, reliable way to display PCL on AMD cards when frame generation is enabled. If anyone knows, please let me know down in the comments, because I would love to be able to bring that metric in here for these tests. But, you know, that in mind, it does feel pretty good. I'm going to use the mouse here, so this is nice and snappy. If I had to guess, I would probably say that we are in maybe the 70s or 80s as far as PCL goes, which ain't bad. I mean, that's fine. You know, especially a controller would probably be how I would play this title anyway. So, you know, if you're into controller play just for the comfort, this is a perfectly good experience. But as you can see, we've got some skipping. That little marker back there, that yellow marker, has a significant amount of ghosting with it. So the rest of the game looks okay though. It's just these like more targeted areas that have like a lot of bright contrast to them. You can notice it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do now is just go up a little bit more on our upscaling, but leave the frame generation turned on. So let's just go up to balanced and see what that does for us here. So that gives us 99, 98 FPS, and everything, you know, looks nice and smooth here. Definitely increased or decreased our ghosting. It increased our performance around ghosting, so that's a lot less ghosting, but it's still noticeable. You can still see it. But again, these are just elements that are markers in the distance. I don't think that that's necessarily something that would ruin your gameplay by any means, but just something to keep in mind. So anything on this title above 50 FPS, I think, is perfectly fine. I don't think that you need to worry too much about like 60, 70, 80 FPS, but you know, if you're into that kind of thing, be my guest. This is how you would do it. So yeah, you frame generate on up to close to 100 FPS if you want to. So let's just jump over and see what performance does. Now, as far as performance goes, on 4K, you're upscaling from 1080p, and you know, prior iterations of FSR, I would say that performance would be a little bit too much of a degraded image. But again, FSR 4 has completely flipped that on its head. It looks phenomenally good now. I mean, this is with no sharpening, and I honestly cannot tell the difference. Maybe if I really studied stuff and zoomed in at 10x and like compared pixel for pixel, I would maybe notice things. But as far as upscaling goes, it's just as good as FSR or as DLSS 4 in my opinion. They both really rival each other pretty tightly. It's definitely closed the gap a lot with the upscaling technologies. But right here at 13 gigs of allocation, that's just because we're doing some frame generation. We're only using 10.3. So this has been kind of a look at the FSR stuff. I want to jump over into the kind of native, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the TSR, stuff that comes with Unreal Engine. So what we're going to do is come in here and just use their presets. So I'm going to go up to Epic just because it runs so well at Epic with a little bit of upscaling. I just want to have a comparison. So we're going to do that now. Turn that motion blur off. This does not support any sort of frame generation though. So you lose that. And that's kind of where I would lean more on AMD, especially with an FSR 4 override. I would prefer to have that available than not. So just keep that in mind because you're going to see here it's not going to run as well without that FSR 4 stuff. So I'm going to go with quality high on Epic and just see what that does. Again, this is that TSR. As you can see, it drops us down into the 30s. Now it is very sharp. I will say that about TSR. It is incredibly clear and clean. Not that FSR 4 is not, but this is absolutely sharper. It's noticeable. I'll put it that way. But again, this is the high quality upscale. So we're just going to work our way through these upscales on TSR just to kind of give you the numbers because I want to be thorough. And some people might want to see it. So we're going to keep it all on Epic just to have a nice comparison here. We're going to go down to quality. Now this looks a little bit more like quality did on FSR 4. Still extremely nice and clean looking. And our performance is comparable. FSR 4 might have even been just a little bit better as far as FPS raw numbers go. So they're kind of hand in hand. Now, if I can recall correctly, I feel like FSR held up a little bit better in this area here with the grape smashing and stuff. So we're down in the 30s. I think that FSR 4 would probably be the upscaler that I would choose for this title. It tends to run a little bit better, and the fidelity and stuff are kind of 1-to-1. Now you don't have the high quality setting for FSR 4 upscaling, but quality for quality looks really good in comparison. So I'm just going to keep on going and see what we can do as far as continuing to upscale on this TSR stuff and see what we can expect, because you can go all the way to high performance on this, which would probably be equivalent to like ultra performance for FSR or DLSS. But yeah, this gives us about 53 FPS, 54. PCL's reporting about 75 milliseconds. That's a little bit loose for most titles. And we're up in the 90s now, so it's definitely loosened up a good bit. But yeah, we're at 41, 53. Just run through here, still in the 40s. So we're going to have to keep upscaling, especially if you want to just run Epic. So this is just like an Epic versus Epic comparison between FSR and TSR. It looks to me like FSR 4 with that override, make sure you do it through the Adrenaline software, is probably the preferred upscaler. Now right here, things are looking a little bit sandy, a little bit grainy, and I've noticed this on TSR once you go kind of down in your upscaling to this, a little bit heavier upscaling, you start to get a lot more noise to your image. So it kind of gives it this sandy look. So, still leaning on FSR 4 as probably my personal preference. I feel like it ran a little cleaner, but let's just keep running through it and see what we can expect if we just keep going. Let's see, what do we have left to do? Here we go, come in here. All right, so that was performance. Definitely gets a little bit grainy at performance, and high performance is probably going to be pretty rough. So About the same though. I mean, but it's still, I mean, you're still at 75 FPS here. PCL's down in the 50s. So, you know, just by comparison, I would say that FSR 4, you know, probably quality or balanced with some frame generation would likely be how I would play it. I'll just run through and kind of do a recap. This is the how I would play it section. I would come in here and I would leave it all on Epic, but kick your FSR on, probably run balanced and keep that frame generation on, and you can go ahead and comfortably do Epic on everything else. And this will give you a nice lift here. You're over 100 FPS. Your PCL isn't reporting, but it's fine. It feels really good. And you know, you're utilizing the hardware on the card with that frame generation. You have VRAM to use. You may as well use it. You're looking like you know, some really smooth frames, and you know, just a nice experience. This looks extremely sharp. And you know, again, I can't say enough good things about FSR 4. I think it's going to be you know, hopefully a good reason to start implementing it in more and more titles from the get-go, because it is a very good rival to DLSS 4 finally. So good for them. I'm happy about that. Competition is a good thing. Yeah, so this has been a good look at Mafia, the old country, 4K on the 9070 XT. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Very close to 1,000 subscribers. If you could help make that happen, that would be amazing. If you're not new here, thank you for becoming a repeat offender and watching all of my videos. That helps more than you know. I really appreciate all the ways everyone has contributed to what I'm trying to do here. So with all that said, I will see you all in the very next video. Peace.